Hi everyone, welcome back to Lisa's Love and Light. Trying to make sure you guys can see me. I don't know. Hopefully you guys can see me. I have it as bright as I can. Um, Happy Monday to you guys. Hope all is well and you guys are doing well. And thank you for being here today. I really appreciate you guys and for stopping by, sharing the videos with other folks because they need to hear the message, whether they're men or women. Because we both go through a lot of trials and tribulations. And on this channel, what we do is talk about ways to overcome instead of succumbing to the trials and tribulations. Let's see if that helps. That should be better. A little better. But before we get into this message today, I want to talk about something that occurred on Friday. Um, I did a video on Friday, and the title was When Haters Feel Entitled to Your Blessings. And it felt like somebody stopped by and had a problem with that and left a not so nice comment that says you need to stop. And I'm going to address that here because I read it and then I deleted it. We are this on this channel, this is about healing, growth, and evolving, self-care, self-love, and associating ourselves with people who are going to uplift us, motivate us to win instead of being toxic and being low vibrational. So if you don't, to that particular person, if you don't like what's being said at this channel, then you don't have to be here. But please don't stop by and leave comments like you did because they're going to be read but then deleted. And then if I see another one, you won't be able to comment at all because this channel is not about that. I don't know you personally, and you don't know me. And the things that I discuss here are the experiences that I went through myself. This is not a game or a joke or something made up just to get people here. This is to help people by telling them that if I can go through all of this and get through it with no physical help but God, then they can do it too. And I talk about ways to do that. And if you don't like what you hear at this channel, then you don't have to stop by. Perhaps something else or another channel will benefit you more because we're not here to drop, negativity. I've gone through that all my life, the first half, and I'm not doing that anymore. And I don't engage in a back and forth, in and out, round and about. I don't do that anymore because I really healed those things. And I'm just addressing it because if it happens again, you will not be able to comment. We are here to respect one another, to uplift. We see what's happening in this world today. It's like the negativity and disrespect is being normalized. But we need to heal from it so that we can take care of our mental and physical health, grow, heal, and evolve instead of, being in these abusive situations. So now I address that. So please don't leave those type of comments here because they will be deleted and I will make sure you can't comment here anymore because we don't do that here. Because I'm here to tell my story about how I overcame because somebody listening needs to hear this because they might be going through everything that I've already gone through. And I may be helping them to be an overcomer instead of succumbing to the trials and tribulations that is before them. So with that being said, guys, also keep in mind that I'm not a therapist or a social worker or a counselor. I'm just someone who went through a lot. And for some reason, all my life is like the abuse and or the bullying or whatever. And at this point in my life, I'm not dealing with it anymore. I don't have to be loud or out of character. Just cut off, block, and delete. Address it. Set boundaries. I should have said that first. And then if it continues, cut off, block, and delete. So let's get into this message today, guys. The title is Repairing a Broken Mindset. repairing a broken mindset is necessary in the healing process so that you can be whole in body, mind, and spirit. And that way you can grow, heal, and evolve. And that's what I had to do. So a broken mindset can sometimes cause us to make decisions that we wish we can reverse. God knows that I made a lot of decisions that if I can go back in time and change them, perhaps I would. But then again, I probably, if I didn't go through those experiences, I probably wouldn't be who I am today. Because what doesn't break you will refine you. I promise you that, guys. So many of us, many of us with certain belief systems, many of us grew up with certain belief systems that might not fit who we are today. Perhaps those belief systems fit that particular time that we grew up in. It's just like the disciplinary stuff that worked back in the day growing up, but may not be fit for today. This is what I mean when I talk about certain belief systems. Because, it may have worked for that particular time frame, but it doesn't fit the system we're in today or who we are today. I can honestly say that this was my story for far, far too long, for the first half of my life. And it wasn't something that I chose. I had to do what I was told to do. As I went through these struggles and the trials of life, I had to ask myself, guys, why do I need to place my needs and goals on a back burner to be subservient to the needs of others? And as I asked myself that, I also asked the, cult-like organization that I belonged to, my mom, other people. That's what people didn't like about me. I asked a lot of questions. I didn't just take something at face value. I would always ask questions, and people hated that. Even from the time that I can remember, I always asked questions. Oh, be quiet, shh. That kind of response is what I got, instead of real answers. You see, listeners, I grew up in a religious cult-like organization that taught codependency tendencies instead of independent ones. And especially, I have some notes here. If you are a woman, you're supposed to commit and submit without giving any thought to your needs and wants. You're supposed to just automatically do that as a woman. And I had questions about that. And they didn't like my questions. Even my own mother didn't. It's like, why should I go with the flow without knowing why I'm doing this? And people would say I'm too deep or intense or weird or whatever they would say, but questions, I had so many that I didn't have real answers to. As a woman, I was taught to do as I was told and be happy with this. But what about our needs as a woman? I will always remember, guys, the time that something awful took place at my house growing up. When I spoke to my mom about this in a cult-like organization that I was in at the time, they tried to downplay the situation, which was a traumatic one for me, making me feel as if I did something to create that problem. Guys, I was only 15 years old when this occurred, and the person involved was a sick and twisted relative who was allowed to live with us. The situation got downplayed because he was a man, and I started to see a lot of this within this cult-like organization. A situation where a friend of the family of one of my sisters, let me say it that way, and she had some situation with a guy within a cult-like situation. She wasn't married to him. And anyway, to make a long story short, she got pregnant. So she got excommunicated, but he didn't. And I didn't understand that. She didn't get pregnant by herself. She didn't put the load there. It takes two, he got a slap on the wrist, I guess because she was carrying the load. And I started to see what's the imbalances there, and other people getting slapped on the wrist while another person, get thrown into the woods, so to speak. And I started to ask a lot of questions, and they didn't like that. So when my situation happened to me, at 15, it got downplayed because he was a man. This led to my outrage and trauma for a long time, and this made me question everything within the organization. And I got to the point where something doesn't feel right here. When I reached the age of 23, I decided to allow myself to be excommunicated instead of following along with something that did not fit who I was. I tried. It's like putting your feet in a pair of shoes that doesn't fit because it's the wrong size. And your feet is too big to put into those shoes. But you try to twist it this way, that way, round and about, but it's never going to fit because it's not your size. And that's how I felt being within this cult-like organization. Every time I asked questions, it's like I was being reprimanded for asking questions. Just do what we tell you to do. That's it. And I was like, this doesn't feel right. Even at a young, early age, I felt that way. The deal was sealed when the organization tried to get me to stop dating someone outside the organization that I was seeing at that time, which was considered forbidden love in a whole lot of ways, but I'm not getting into that today. That'll be for another day. But when I refused, I was told that I would be excommunicated unless I agreed to end that relationship, and then they discussed finding someone within the organization for me to marry. And I stood my ground, accepted the excommunication because that was never going to happen. To be even more honest about this situation, I was only 23 years old, and I was not ready to be married to anyone. I mean, I wanted to date, and you see, my life was restricted so much that I didn't have friends, really friends in the organization. Outside, I started to make friends, and which is against their rules and regulations. But like I said, I just wanted to live my life without all of the restrictions of who I should be or who I should not be. Instantly, after this excommunication situation, I was considered the black sheep of the family, as well as that organization. But I was always that when it came to the family, because I marched to a different beat of the drum. While they were out partying and ha ha he he, I was reading books and learning things, spending time with a woman who was like a second grandmother to me. She used to make tea and coffee. No, not coffee, but tea and snacks. And as a teenager, I spent a lot of time at her house learning, about being a woman, respect, all of those things. It was just different for me. Anyway, the organization told their side of the story after the excommunication took place. But what was the question in my mind is, but no one ever asked me my side of the story. And it made me see the lopsidedness of that. And if a person has a high status, money or whatever, they can tell you anything and people will believe it without researching what it really is. And that to me, I always had a problem with those issues, guys, even from way back. So after the excommunication, I went through hell in a handbasket for a very long time thereafter because I really had no family anymore, except for my father, who's no longer here. He was the one who stepped up and helped me find an apartment because I had to move out at my mother's house. They were not together anymore anyway. And, it was just hell, guys, until recently, back and forth, in and out, round and about, until recently I changed my mindset to a different perspective. Let me tell you how I did that. I started to develop a personal relationship with God, I realized that I didn't have to sit in a church to let somebody define what my relationship was with God. I can develop a personal one with Him myself. So I did that and started asking God for clarity as to why I was repeating these cycles and situations over and over all my life. The clarity came, guys, when I changed my perspective, meaning I changed my broken mindset, and once I changed it, I became whole. What the issue was is that I was repeating unlearned lessons, repeating cycles due to unlearned lessons. Different characters, same scenario over and over. But each time that wheel spin, the situation got worse and worse and worse. And I had to sit down and see why this was happening. And as I stayed in prayer, asking God to help me, I started to see, I'm attracting toxic and narcissistic individuals, abusive ones. Get rid of one, wait a little while to clear my head, heal from it. Well, really wasn't healing from it at that particular time. And then here we go again. And then the next one would be worse than the one that I had before. And I just had to take a time out to find out what was happening here. I found ways to recognize and learn the lessons so that I didn't have to repeat them. And once I started to realize why this cycle was so vicious and it kept, the wheel kept turning and turning and I kept repeating, then I started to see things for what they were and not what I wanted to be. So I have some notes today, guys, so bear with me. When somebody show you who they are, believe them the first time around. And I'm not talking about some little argument here and there. You're in a bad mood because you had a bad day. I'm not talking about any of that. I'm talking about abuse. How do you say it? Just raw abuse over and over. And each time the abuse occur is worse than ever. When somebody show you something like that, believe them the first time. Once I learned to see these things for what they are instead of making excuses for it, and seeing it for what it is, I learned the lessons. The vicious cycles came to an end. And then after they came to an end, I thanked God and asked Him not only to close the doors to those cycles, but to cut the cord to it so that I don't have to repeat them. And I started to face the pain. I always use that metaphor of the elephant in the room. And I started to face that, look at it. Why I was traumatized, why I was going through these things. I had abandonment issues, self-esteem issues, all these things, and I had to face it. And the first step was therapy. And then I did a pro and con list of the people and individuals who were in my life. Didn't matter if it was family or not or whoever, and what they were bringing to the table and what I was bringing. And then I started to do those boundaries. And then people didn't like the boundaries, so some of them just cut themselves out of my life. And then the others, I had to cut them out, cut off, block, and delete so that I could stay focused on the healing process. Because the pain was deep, guys. All my life I've learned what happens in this house stays in this house. But how can you heal if these issues are not addressed? If what happens in this house stays in this house, how can you heal the issues? Because the key factor is to address these issues so that you can heal instead of carrying burdens with you to different connections and situations. You have to get and throw those burdens off your back, and the only way to do that is to heal them. Heal them, address them, and heal the situation so that you can live your life to the fullest. And be your authentic self, guys, without apology, instead of what somebody else wants you to be. Never let anyone define who you are or your life. Be your authentic self. And people don't like it. They have a right not to like it, but they don't have a right to try to tell you to stop and block you and try to tell you, no, you need to be over here. No, you need to be at the bottom of the barrel like the rest of the crabs. No one has a right to tell you any of that. And don't allow anybody to tell you any of that. Live your life instead of just existing. You know, because I was just existing for a long time, you know, going through just riding that wheel to no destination at all. We don't have to do that. We can heal. And once we see people and situations as they are, instead of an illusion of what we want it to be, then we can change the outcome. And then as we do that and we see these situations, we can heal. We can heal the codependency. We can heal the abandonment issues that we have. It's never going to happen overnight, one day at a time, one step at a time, but we can heal these things. And once we do that, we can become whole instead of being traumatized, walking around with anxiety, the bricks and tons of bricks on our back. We can throw those bricks off our back so that we can walk upright and be free from all these things. Sometimes we have to lose things in order to gain ourselves. But it's better to gain yourself and heal these things so you can be whole in your body, mind, and spirit. That is the message today, guys. Let's turn this pain into power, power into purpose, purpose into paying it forward to help others as we help ourselves. And that's how we win. This is Lisa, shedding love and light. Thank you for stopping by today. Share this video with others so that they can get the message and get uplifted. And guys, once again, go to the links so that you can, let me take this out of the box. I use this and it helps me because I used to have a lot of anxiety. Lavender, you know, these are lavender essential oil. And hold on, guys, I'm going to show you this. I brought it over here to show you. This is my humidifier. See this, guys? And I put the drops in there and turn it on, and the steam and the lavender itself, it helps me sleep at night because I had a hard time because of anxiety. But these things help, so do things that help your anxiety. That's part of your self-care. And stop by and look at the links underneath this video and see if there's something there that you like or that will help you. Once again, this is Lisa, shedding love and light. Thank you for stopping by, and I'll see you guys sometime tomorrow. Bye for now.